Hello, this is Tarregor. The last video is on sweeping NPC changes. This video is on changes to specific NPCs. This video is a Twitch stream that was not edited, so it will look like a Twitch stream. Welcome to my vision of World of Warcraft Classic Plus. The design direction of my vision of Classic Plus is substantially different from that of retail WoW, Circuit Shadowlands, and in private servers, Vanilla Plus, and Turtle WoW. This is partially because its aim to fix Vanilla WoW's many problems first. Flesh out what's already there second and polish it, and add new content third. This is part of my playlist of videos. Check this video's description for a link to the playlist. The document displays my vision of Classic Plus, and the document's version number is 1.5.15. All versions of the document are based upon patch 1.12.2 of World of Warcraft. If you just want to know about the general design direction of my vision of Classic Plus before you otherwise look into this, then watch the introductory video in its playlist or video document yourself and look at your list of major features. I lost where I was in the script and I had to find where I was again. Anyway, the link to the document itself is on my channel's About page. That, and I do not have a team of people or ever worked with me to make an actual private server out of this, since it's all pure design this far, and it ain't done yet. Now then, on to changes made to specific NPCs. First off, changes to specific NPCs in instance dungeons and raids can be found in section number 2, Dungeons and Raids, and changes to NPCs in Battlegrounds can be found in section number 5, PvP. I want to put that column there. And here. However, Lord Sorfang's level will be increased by 1, displayed as goal, and he'll be classified as a boss. First off, because Statement Magic is overpowered in some cases, Duststormers, in particular, will have their Lightning Cloud ability removed and replaced with a spell called Lightning Strike, which is a 50-yard range, a long cast time, and deals a very high amount of nature damage by striking the opponent with lightning from above. Visuals from an expansion pack, such as Wrath of the Lich King, should work fine for this spell. In fact, that's what I was thinking of. Wrath of the Lich King Thunderstorm is what I was thinking of. Because Statement Magic is overpowered in some cases, Scorching Elementals, Liquid Blazes, while I'm at it, Entropic Beasts and Entropic Horrors will be given Flame Buffet, a spell that deals fire damage and increases fire damage taken by X via a magical debuff for its duration, just stack pretty high, if not indefinitely. Because Statement Magic is overpowered in some cases, the local Toxic Horrors, when it reaches 5 stacks, will immediately end its duration, deal 960, 1020 nature damage, and stun its victim for 3 seconds. Because Statement Magic is overpowered in some cases, Plague Ravagers will be given a stack of disease ability that lasts for 3 seconds, that makes your throat swell, dealing a small amount of nature damage per stack every 3 seconds, and slowing your spellcasting speed by 20% per stack, and then 5 stacks, preventing you from eating, drinking, using potions, casting spells, or breathing for 30 seconds. It caps at 5 stacks. The ability of Grapple Snout Thinkers called Skull Crack will be buffed back to its original duration of 6 seconds to go towards making the game harder. Each Devil Sword spawn, including King Maj, will have 2 or more patrol routes, which are picked upon spawning, and when Devil Swords spawn, they'll spawn in a random part of the selected patrol. This would add a bit of danger to that Ongo creator was known for way back when, as well as making it easier to compete for Devil Sword Letter. The number of pirates on Exposed and Stranglethorn Veil will be reverted to its patch 1.3.0 values to go towards making the game harder. The number of syndicate members in Strombrod will be reverted to its 1.3.0 values to go towards making the game harder. The respawn rates of the Trogs and Loch Modan will be reverted to their patch 1.3.0 values to go towards making the game harder. The Bears and Wolves in Silverpine Forest will have their pre-1.4 aggro radii. Their aggro radii as before patch 1.4.0 to go towards making the game be harder. Storm Shadowhoof will be put back in Felwood, where he was in early vanilla, to make quest speed just a teensy bit further away from being streamlined. All non-player characters in the Thunderclap will deal physical damage with the ability instead of nature damage, and they'll crit off a melee crit for double damage instead of off a spell crit for 50% more damage for the sake of consistency. The damage dealt by these particular Thunderclaps will be increased by 15.021395348837% due to the damage type conversion and the crit type conversion. Resistance Arcane, casted by Scarlet Max and Western Plaguelands, which increases the target's arcane resistance by 78 points for an hour, will have its duration nerfed to 3 minutes in order to prevent it from being used to make raids, specifically Shazra and Oxyrgos, be easier. Scarlet Hunters will be renamed Scarlet Houndmasters because, thematically, who would have trained to be hunters? Now they're just Houndmasters. In this case, hounds, in this case, count as proper canines, hyenas, dark hounds, aka demon dogs, and fel hounds, and unlike hunters, Houndmasters stain their hounds through intimidation rather than friendship, and Hound Masters typically gain no special combat abilities, but they can control multiple hounds at once. Speaking of combat abilities, I'll revise all abilities known by Hound Master NPCs later. Helcular's remains are no longer guaranteed to drop. Will no longer be guaranteed to drop a greed item. Will no longer be. He'll instead drop items as a standard non-rare, non-boss elite NPC of his level. He does not need to get farmed for gold, and especially not during the first few weeks of its server's lifespan. Of any server's lifespan. Marshall champions will load Purge, rank 2. This is because they'll drop a totem to buff the spell Purge. Crimson Unnaturalists will know a version of Hibernate that lasts for 40 seconds. This is because they'll drop an idle. This is because they will drop an idle buff the spell Hibernate. Large Vile Slimes will appear larger than the Vile Slimes instead of appearing smaller than Vile Slimes. The Slimes in Mordon. Both of those are from Mordon. Range attacks will begin into the guards at Manethil Harbor, Theramore Isle, and Aberdeen that are near the boat, but not the ones that are not near the boat. And they will attack the Horde when they are on the boat, and those guards will be buffed as mentioned below. All guards in neutral towns will be made immune to all forms of crowd control and movement impairing effects. They'll have 300% of the normal run speed, and they'll have stacking death with no cooldown at a 100-yard range. That does not require line of sight. It will inflict you with a hefty damage over time effects, and they'll also learn Summon Player, which has a 100-yard range and no cooldown. It does not require line of sight to cast. So don't go around griefing people in neutral towns unless you're prepared to kill the guards first. The dragon that flies around the Syrian Gorge and Blackrock Mountain will be a targetable NPC that can be killed. He, or if I remember right, she, I don't remember which, is an elite drake of some sort. Hiwashi, Stingers, and Swarmers will have special abilities like the Stingers and Swarmers of other Solidifieds instead of having no special abilities at all, like they did in 2019. Venomhide Poison's duration will be lowered to 2 minutes to save tryhards from themselves. Night of Frost Oil and Shadow Oil are no longer temporary weapon enchants, and Sharpening Stones and Weight Stones are only usable by blacksmiths, and no longer count its temporary weapon enchants. More on that in the eventual video on blacksmithing changes. Condemned monks will be replaced with different elite NPCs with the same levels as part of retconning Pandaren and by extension, monks out of existence. Chen's Thornstout and the existence of Pandaren were supposed to be a joke back in the early 2000s, and this Classic Plus, they're going to remain just that, a joke. Master Kane's outfit will be changed to make him look like a rogue as part of retconning monks out of existence. The one level 60 or so guy in Ravenhold. The following non-player characters will generally be found out in the wild in stealth mode. Duskstalker, Moonstalker, Moonstalker Sire, Moonstalker Matriarch, Young Panther, Panther, Curse of War Panther, Ridgestalker Patriarch, Bacthera, Elder Shadow Panther, Jaguar Stalker, and Bethekian Panther, formerly Zolion Panther. Grimtone, Deathset, and Twilight Geomancers have had slow spells to be replaced with the pre-existing non-player character spell, Ground Tremor. Geomancers are not mages, but rather they derive their powers from the elements by performing dances and rituals and such for them, which is quite different than how shamans get their elemental magic. They are not shamans either. Sylvanas Windworm's Fade spell will be replaced with a non-channeled mind control a la Warcraft 3, and her Summon Skeleton spell will be replaced with a passive called Black Arrow that causes her range attacks to deal 5% extra damage as shadow damage, and makes the creature that she gets a range kill and blow, and makes the creatures that she gets a range kill and blow on be using it as skeletons to fight for her until they leave combat, at which point they despawn. She is not a necromancer or a priest, but a dark ranger. Twilight Dark Shamans will be removed from the game and be replaced with a new elite NPC of the same level range called Twilight Devout. These have the same loot tables of Twilight Dark Shamans and have Greater Heal, Mind Blast, and Power Word Pain, formerly Shadow Word Pain, as their abilities. In this WoW Classic Plus, there will be no such thing as a Dark Shaman. Hexed Trolls will cast Hex and Weakness, rank 1, instead of Immolate. There's no thematic justification for them getting to cast Immolate. Voodoo Trolls will cast a new spell from Warcraft 3 called Serpent Ward instead of casting Healing Wave. Serpent Ward is a spell that directs a ward, which is like a totem except it looks different and you can have more than one, of the caster's level of 5 hit points that repeatedly deals physical damage to the nearest target a la Searing Totem. The damage dealt by this is yet to be defined. Voodoo Trolls will also cast Voodoo Shield, formerly called Shadow Guard instead of Lightning Shield. Voodoo trolls are not shamans, and shamans do not practice voodoo. Zalazano casts a quotation mark new quotation mark spell from Warcraft 3 called Stasis Trap Ward instead of casting Healing Wave. Stasis Trap Ward summons an invisible, lesser visibility, ward, which sits there for 10 seconds and then stuns up to 6 foes within a 10-yard radius for 6 seconds. Random foes, and it's 10-yard radius for 6 seconds, which after which the ward will cease to be invisible and then it will despawn a second later. Zalazan is not a shaman, but a witch doctor, which is completely different than shamans are. And witch doctors are completely different than shamans are. Vol'jin's Veil of Shadow will be replaced with Big Bad Voodoo, which is a quotation mark new quotation mark spell ripped from Warcraft 3 that grants him and his allies within 100-yard radius immunity to all damage as a 1 minute channeled spell, which can be interrupted. Terrible Shadow Weavers will cast Power Word Pain instead of Veil of Death, formerly called Veil of Shadow. Veil of Shadow is death magic and not the void magic that they are supposed to have. Curse and Shadow Hunters will know Hex and Weak hits 3 instead of Poison Shot. Vile Branch Witch Doctors will cast Serpent Ward and Healing Ward instead of Healing Wave and Shadow Bolt, serving to make him be more thematic than before. Zanzil Witch Doctors will cast Hex and Weakness instead of Curse and Weakness and Voodoo Shield instead of Shadow Bolt. Witch Doctors are not warlocks. Skull Splitter and Bloodscalp Witch Doctors will cast Stasis Trap Ward instead of Earth Grab Totem. Witch Doctors are not shamans. Cursing Witch Doctors will cast Voodoo Shield and Healing Ward instead of Purge and Searing Totem. Witch Doctors, again, are not shamans. Winterbark Witch Doctors will no longer have Magma Totem, but instead have a new spell called Ward of Life Stealing. It's a ward that's basically Grounding Totem, except it needs a foe's healing spell instead of a foe's damaging or debilitating spell. Witch Doctors are not shamans. Whenever a Sea Giant and Desolate gets near Naga, it'll start killing it because lore. Slither Blade, Wrathtail, and Black Phasm Sea Witches will be given bows, which they'll use on players who are not within melee range of them when they don't feel like casting spells instead. Grim Totem Sorcerers will be renamed to Grim Totem Arborists. They are not mages, and their only spells will be Wrath and Rejuvenation. Grim Totem Torn do not get to be mages. Highborn Lichlings will be renamed to Chilling Highborn. The name of Lichling demands an explanation of what that even is, and I'd rather just retcon that out of the game and make up new lore for it instead. I'd rather retcon that out of the game than make up new lore for it. That's what I meant. Ugh. Skeletal Healers from Duskwood will be replaced with an entirely different type of non-player character. It just doesn't make sense to have mindless undead to be priests. Guntor Arcanus, being a lich. Guntor Arcanus, being a lich, will have his model changed to that of a proper lich, like Grass Frost Whisper and MM the Coldbringer. It'll be ensured that Marshal Windsor's aura, Windsor's Frenzy, will probably act as an aura and not remain on players after they leave the aura's radius. And Fallen Hero of the Horde's Battle Shout will have its duration reduced to 3 minutes, preventing it from being used in raids. And that's all I got for specific NPC changes outside of the respective subsections on Dungeons & Raids. Thanks for watching.